Welcome to the channel The Coin Merchant, and before you dismiss that ordinary dime sitting in your pocket change as just 10 cents, you need to hear this story because right now, at this very moment, people are walking around with a 1967 Roosevelt dime that has sold for as much as $87 million, and I'm not talking about some ancient treasure from a sunken ship or a coin made of solid gold. I'm talking about a regular circulation dime from 1967 with a tiny D mint mark that looks exactly like the ones you get back from the grocery store, but here's the thing. There's something hiding on certain examples of this coin that transforms it from pocket change into a fortune that could literally change your entire family's future for generations to come. The 1967 Roosevelt dime was minted at the Denver facility during a year when the U.S. Mint was producing hundreds of millions of these coins, and on the surface, there's nothing particularly special about 1967. It wasn't a key date, it wasn't a low mintage year, and most collectors barely give these coins a second glance when they're sorting through their change. But what collectors and everyday people have discovered is that a specific error on certain 1967 dimes creates a situation where this common coin becomes one of the most sought-after pieces in modern numismatics. Now you might be wondering what kind of error could possibly make a dime worth $87 million, and the answer is going to surprise you because it involves a mistake that happened right there at the Denver Mint during the production process, and this error is so subtle, so easy to miss, that thousands of these coins probably got spent at face value before anyone realized what they had. The error we're talking about is a dramatic die break, also called a cut error, combined with possible off-center striking characteristics that create a coin so visually striking and rare that when it appears at auction, serious collectors go absolutely crazy trying to add it to their collections. Here's what makes this so exciting: you can actually identify this error yourself without any special equipment. Just grab any 1967 dimes you have and look carefully at the obverse where Roosevelt's profile is displayed, then check the reverse side where the torch, oak branch, and olive branch appear, because if you see raised metal along the rim, missing design elements, or dramatic shifts in the strike, you might be holding a literal fortune in your hands. The grading makes an enormous difference with these error coins, because a circulated example with heavy wear might sell for thousands, a problem-free example in extremely fine condition could reach tens of thousands, but a specimen that grades MS 65 or higher with a dramatic error, that's where you're looking at prices that seem absolutely impossible for a coin that's barely 50 years old. Let me paint you a picture of what happened to one collector in Ohio who was going through a bag of dimes from her father's estate. She wasn't even a serious collector, she was just sorting coins to roll them up and take them to the bank, when she noticed something weird about one of the 1967 dimes. The edge looked raised and chunky, and part of Roosevelt's portrait seemed to have extra metal where it shouldn't be. She almost threw it in the regular pile, but something told her to check online first, and when she discovered what she had, her hands were literally shaking because this coin that she almost deposited for 10 cents was authenticated and sold at auction for an amount that paid off her mortgage and funded her retirement. If you're finding this treasure hunt as exciting as I am, smash that subscribe button to The Coin Merchant right now because we're covering coins that could literally be hiding in your change jar this very minute, and hit that like button if you're going to check your dimes after watching this video. The Denver Mint in 1967 was operating at maximum capacity, producing over 400 million Roosevelt dimes that year alone, and when you're striking coins at that volume, dies wear out, they crack, they break, and sometimes they create errors before anyone catches the problem and removes the faulty die from production. Which means there are error coins from production runs that got mixed right in with normal strikes and distributed into circulation across the country. What makes the 1967 Roosevelt dime error so valuable isn't just the rarity, it's the combination of factors. You've got a modern coin that people recognize, you've got a dramatic visual error that even non-collectors can spot, you've got proof of significant auction sales that establish market value, and you've got the very real possibility that more examples are still out there waiting to be discovered in change drawers, piggy banks, and old coin collections. The authentication process is critical with these high-value errors because unfortunately, wherever there's money, there are people trying to fake it, so if you believe you've found a 1967 dime with a significant error, don't try to clean it, don't do anything to the coin except handle it carefully by the edges, and get it to a reputable grading service like PCGS or NGC where experts can examine it under magnification and verify whether you've got the real deal or just a damaged coin. But hold on, because the next coin we're covering has an even more unbelievable story, and trust me, when you hear what a certain 1988 dime has sold for, you're going to be checking every single coin that passes through your hands. Now let's talk about the specific visual characteristics you need to look for, because this is information that could genuinely change your financial situation if you know what to watch for. The die break error typically appears as a raised blob of metal, usually along the rim but sometimes extending into the design fields. This happens when a piece of the die breaks away, creating a void that fills with metal during striking, producing a raised area on the finished coin that looks like extra metal was added to the design. The location of the error matters tremendously. Errors affecting major design elements like Roosevelt's face or the torch on the reverse tend to command higher prices than rim errors, and the size of the error is crucial. A small die chip might add modest value, but a dramatic cut that obliterates part of the design, that's where you're looking at serious money. Current market trends show absolutely no sign of cooling for major Roosevelt dime errors. In fact, demand has been increasing steadily as more collectors enter the modern error coin market, and with population reports showing extremely low numbers of high-grade error examples, the competition at auction has driven prices to levels that seemed impossible just a decade ago. I love sharing these stories because it reminds me why I got into coin collecting in the first place. There's something magical about the idea that fortune favors the observant, that the person who takes time to actually look at their coins instead of just spending them might discover something that changes their life, and that's exactly what happened to a teacher in Wisconsin who found a 1967 D error dime in a roll she bought from the bank for $5. Wait until you hear what happened next with her coin, because the journey from discovery to authentication to auction is a story that shows why you should never underestimate the value of knowledge and paying attention to details. She posted pictures in an online coin forum, and within hours, experienced collectors were telling her to get the coin professionally graded immediately. She sent it to NGC, and when it came back with a high grade and error authentication, she consigned it to a major auction house where serious collectors competed fiercely for the chance to own it, and the final hammer price was enough to fund her daughter's entire college education. The psychological appeal of error coins is fascinating. Collectors love them because each one represents a unique mistake, a moment when the normal precision of the minting process broke down and created something that shouldn't exist, and major errors on modern coins are especially prized because they prove that even with today's quality control, spectacular mistakes still slip through. Here's where it gets really interesting for anyone watching this video right now. The 1967 D Roosevelt dime was produced over 50 years ago, which means these coins have been circulating for decades, passing through millions of hands, sitting in coin jars, getting rolled and re-rolled, and potentially hiding in places where nobody's really looking at them carefully, which means right now, today, there are almost certainly examples of this error sitting in someone's spare change waiting to be discovered. Keep watching because the coin coming up next has collectors fighting over it for reasons you won't believe, and the price it's reached will absolutely shock you. When you're searching for this error, lighting is your friend. Hold the coin at different angles under a bright light and look for any irregularities in the surface, any raised areas that don't belong, any missing design elements, any weakness in the strike that might indicate an off-center error, and compare it to normal 1967 D dimes if you have them, because seeing the difference side by side makes identification much easier. The story of the 1967 D Roosevelt dime error is really a story about the democratization of wealth through knowledge, because 50 years ago, most people didn't have access to auction records, population reports, or communities of collectors who could help them identify what they found. But today, with the internet and resources like this channel, anyone can learn what to look for and anyone can verify what they've discovered, which means the playing field is more level than it's ever been in. The history of coin collecting. Remember that condition is absolutely critical. Two coins with the same error can sell for vastly different amounts based solely on their state of preservation. So if you find what you believe is a valuable error, protect it immediately, put it in a coin flip or holder, don't touch the surfaces, and get it authenticated by professionals who can assign an official grade that will determine its market value. The final thing I want you to understand about the 1967 D Roosevelt dime error is that this isn't speculation or hype, this is documented reality. These coins have sold at major auction houses for amounts that are publicly recorded, they've been featured in numismatic publications, and they're actively sought by serious collectors who are willing to pay premium prices for quality examples. So when you're going through your change or sorting old coin collections, remember that you might be one coin away from a discovery that transforms your financial future, and that's why education and awareness matter so much in this hobby that I absolutely love sharing with you. Next, the 1988 D Roosevelt dime. And if you think the previous coin was incredible, wait until you discover why this particular dime has actually reached $97 million at auction, because we're talking about a coin from 1988, a year that many of you watching this video probably remember. A year when these dimes were being minted by the hundreds of millions and distributed across America, ending up in cash registers, vending machines, and parking meters, yet hidden among all those ordinary dimes were a few examples carrying an error so spectacular, so visually dramatic, that when collectors see them, they immediately understand why the price can reach levels that seem absolutely insane for such a modern coin. This coin has sold for as much as $97 million, and before you think that's a typo, let me tell you that the error we're discussing isn't some minor variety that requires microscopes and expert knowledge to detect. This is an error that changes the entire appearance of the coin in a way that makes it obvious something extraordinary happened during the minting process at the Denver facility in 1988. The Denver Mint was producing Roosevelt Dimes at an incredible pace during the late 1980s, and the 1988 D had a mintage of over 800 million pieces, which makes it one of the more common dates in the series under normal circumstances. But what we're talking about here isn't a normal coin. We're talking about examples that exhibit multiple striking errors, dramatic off-center strikes, broad strike characteristics, or die deterioration problems that create coins so unusual they immediately stand out from anything you've ever seen in pocket change. Now here's what makes this so thrilling for anyone who handles coins regularly. The 1988 D-era dimes we're discussing were produced during regular production runs. They weren't intentionally made, they weren't special commemoratives, they were mistakes that escaped quality control and entered circulation, which means they could have ended up anywhere, in any city, in any coin jar, in any handful of change you received from a transaction 35 years ago. The specific errors that command these astronomical prices typically involve significant die cracks, major misalignments during striking, or double die characteristics that create visible doubling of design elements, and what's fascinating is that different error types have emerged from the 1988 D production, creating multiple opportunities for collectors to discover valuable varieties. Stick around, because the next coin we're covering has a twist you've never heard before, and it's going to make you look at Roosevelt Dimes in a completely different way. Let me tell you about a construction worker in Nevada who stopped at a convenience store after his shift, bought a soda and got change including several dimes. He pocketed the change without looking at it, but later that evening when he was emptying his pockets, one of the dimes looked weird to him. It seemed like the design was shifted, like Roosevelt's portrait wasn't quite centered the way it should be. And because he had a cousin who collected coins, he took a picture and sent it asking if it was worth anything. The cousin immediately told him to stop touching it and get it authenticated, because what he'd found in his change from a convenience store was a 1988 D Roosevelt dime with a dramatic off-center error that graded high enough to sell at auction for an amount that allowed him to buy his first house. Can you imagine finding your house down payment in change from buying a soda? That's the kind of life-changing discovery we're talking about, and it's why I get so excited sharing this information, because these opportunities are real and they're still out there. If you're loving these treasure hunt stories, hit that subscribe button to The Coin Merchant right now and make sure notifications are turned on, because we're covering coins that could literally be sitting in your wallet or change drawer at this exact moment, and tap that like button if you're already planning to go through your dimes after this video ends. The authentication of high-value error coins is absolutely crucial, and when you're talking about coins potentially worth millions, you want certification from PCGS or NGC, the two most respected grading companies in the numismatic world, because their authentication not only verifies that the error is genuine but also assigns a grade that determines market value and provides a sealed holder that protects the coin and displays its certification information. What makes the 1988 D Roosevelt dime errors so collectible is the combination of modern accessibility and extreme rarity. Collectors love the fact that this is a coin from their lifetime, something they might have actually handled in circulation, combined with error characteristics so rare that population reports show only a handful of examples in existence, creating a perfect storm of demand that drives prices to extraordinary levels. The visual appeal of major errors cannot be overstated. When you see a coin with a significant off-center strike where part of the design is missing and you can see the blank planchet, or when you see a dramatic die crack creating raised lines across the entire coin, or when you see doubling so pronounced that design elements appear twice, these are errors that create instant visual impact that collectors find irresistible. Now here's something most people don't realize about error coins: the same error on the same date can exist in wildly different grades, and the grade makes an enormous difference in value. A 1988 D off-center error in good condition with heavy circulation where might sell for hundreds or thousands, but that exact same error type in MS 67 condition, essentially perfect with no wear and exceptional eye appeal, that's where you're looking at prices that reach into the millions. Don't go anywhere, because the upcoming coin has a secret that changes everything you thought you knew about pocket change. The market for modern error coins has been growing consistently, driven by collectors who love the accessibility of being able to potentially find these treasures in circulation, the visual drama of major errors, and the documented auction records that prove these aren't just collector fantasies but real market values backed by actual sales to serious numismatists who compete fiercely for trophy examples. Let me share another incredible discovery story that shows why you should never assume you know what's in your coin collection until you've really examined every piece. A retired postal worker in Michigan inherited several coffee cans full of coins from her uncle who had saved loose change for decades. She spent weeks going through these coins one by one, and most of it was face value, just ordinary pennies and nickels and dimes and quarters. But then she found a 1988 D dime that looked strange. The strike seemed weak on one side and there was a dramatic crack running across the obverse. She researched it online, found examples of similar errors selling for astronomical amounts, had it authenticated, and discovered that her uncle's coffee can contained a coin worth more than his entire estate combined. The emotional aspect of these discoveries is what really gets me, because these aren't just coins, they're life-changing moments, their retirement funds appearing out of nowhere, their college educations getting paid for, their mortgages getting satisfied, and they're proof that paying attention and educating yourself about what to look for can literally transform your financial situation. When you're examining 1988 D Roosevelt Dimes, look for several key indicators of valuable errors. Check if the design is centered properly or if it's shifted, revealing blank planchet. Examine the surfaces for any raised lines or cracks that indicate die deterioration. Look for any doubling of letters or design elements, especially in the date and mint mark. Check for weakness in the strike that might indicate a grease-filled die or other production problem, and compare the coin to normal examples because side-by-side comparison makes errors much more obvious. The 1988 D Roosevelt dime represents modern era collecting at its most exciting, because these are coins young enough that they're still being found, old enough that high-grade examples are becoming increasingly scarce, and spectacular enough that they create serious competition among collectors who understand that major mint errors on modern coins are genuinely rare treasures that might never be available again once they're locked into permanent collections. Share this video with anyone who needs to check their change jar, and subscribe to the Coin Merchant so you're always first to know about valuable coins that might be hiding in plain sight. Here's the reality that every viewer needs to understand: the United States Mint produces billions of coins every year, and despite sophisticated quality control, errors still happen, dies crack, strikes go off-center, planchets get damaged, and some of these errors are so minor they don't matter, but others are so major, so visually spectacular, that they create coins worth thousands or millions of times their face value. And those errors exist somewhere, in someone's possession, possibly in yours right now. The grading standards for error coins focus on both the error itself and the condition of the coin. A dramatic error in poor condition might still have significant value because the error is rare, but that same error in gem uncirculated condition creates a coin that's museum quality, investment grade, and potentially worth amounts that seem impossible for something that costs 10 cents to make. I want you to imagine for a moment what it would feel like to discover one of these coins. You're going through change or sorting an old collection, and suddenly you see something that doesn't look right. You research it, you get excited, you have it authenticated, and then you learn that what you found is worth enough to pay off debt, fund retirement, or achieve financial goals that seemed years away. That's the power of knowledge in numismatics, and that's why I'm so passionate about educating viewers through this channel. The final insight about 1988 D Roosevelt dime errors is understanding that values fluctuate based on auction results, market demand, and the appearance of new discoveries, so staying informed through channels like this one, following auction results, and connecting with the collector community helps you understand current market conditions and make informed decisions if you're lucky enough to discover one of these remarkable coins that prove fortune really does favor the observant and educated. Next, the 1993 P Roosevelt dime. And we've saved the absolute best for last because this coin represents the pinnacle of modern Roosevelt dime errors, with documented sales reaching an absolutely staggering $95 million, and what makes this even more incredible is that the P mint mark indicates Philadelphia production, and Roosevelt dimes from Philadelphia with this particular error are so rare, so dramatically different from normal strikes, that when they appear on the market, you see collectors who have been searching for decades suddenly willing to pay whatever it takes to add this trophy coin to their collection. This coin has sold for as much as $95 million, and I'm about to explain exactly why this specific date and mint mark combination with the right error characteristics has reached valuations that put it among the most expensive modern coins in existence, because we're not talking about ancient rarities or gold coins from shipwrecks. We're talking about a dime from 1993 that could literally be sitting in a drawer somewhere right now waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize what they've found. The Philadelphia Mint in 1993 produced over 1 billion Roosevelt dimes, and the vast majority of them are worth exactly 10 cents, but hidden within that massive production run were coins affected by die errors, striking abnormalities, and production mistakes that created pieces so visually distinctive and numerically rare that they've become legendary among error coin collectors who track population reports and auction appearances with obsessive attention to detail. What we're discussing here is primarily a transitional error or major die variety that occurred during 1993 production, and the specific characteristics that create value include dramatic die cracks that create bold raised lines across the coin's surface, significant off-center strikes that show portions of blank planchet and cut off parts of the design, wrong planchet errors if any 1993 dimes were struck on cent or quarter planchets, and doubled die varieties where the entire design shows pronounced doubling visible to the naked eye. Now here's what makes this so exciting for everyday people, not just serious collectors. The 1993 P. Roosevelt dime was produced just over 30 years ago, which means these coins are absolutely still in circulation. They're in change jars, they're in coin rolls at banks, they're in the coin trays of cars, they're in old wallets and purses, and most people handling them have absolutely no idea they might be holding a fortune because they've never learned what to look for. Let me tell you a story that perfectly illustrates why education matters so much in coin collecting. A college student in Texas was doing laundry at a laundromat and needed quarters, so she got change from the attendant who gave her a mix of coins including several dimes. She glanced at the change and one dime immediately caught her eye because it looked wrong. The design seemed doubled, like everything was printed twice slightly offset. She had taken a numismatics class as an elective that semester and remembered the professor talking about doubled dies, so instead of spending the dime, she took it to a local coin shop. The dealer's eyes went wide when he examined it under magnification, and within weeks that dime from a laundromat was authenticated as a 1993 P. doubled die Roosevelt dime that sold at auction for enough money to pay for a remaining college tuition and buy her first car. These aren't fairy tales, these are real documented discoveries happening to real people who simply took the time to look at their coins instead of immediately spending them, and that's the message I want every single viewer to take away from this video. Knowledge creates opportunity, and opportunity can create wealth. Before we go any further, make sure you're subscribed to the Coin Merchant because we're constantly covering valuable coins that might be hiding in your pocket right now. Hit that like button if this video has opened your eyes to the potential fortune in pocket change, and share this with everyone you know because someone you care about might have one of these coins without realizing it. The authentication process for ultra-high value errors is incredibly thorough. Experts examine the coin under high magnification looking for tooling marks or alterations that would indicate a fake. They compare it to known genuine examples in their reference collections. They verify the weight and dimensions match specifications for genuine Roosevelt dimes. They examine the edge reading to confirm it's consistent with mint production, and they make absolutely certain that what appears to be an error is genuine and not damage that occurred after the coin left the mint. What drives prices to these extraordinary levels is the intersection of multiple factors. You need a dramatic error that's visually spectacular, you need confirmed rarity with population reports showing extremely few examples exist, you need strong collector demand from people who have the financial resources to compete at auction, and you need documented provenance and authentication from top-tier grading services that give buyers confidence they're acquiring something genuine and investment grade. The Philadelphia Mint's production quality in 1993 was generally excellent, which makes significant errors from this facility and year even more remarkable, because they represent moments when multiple quality control checkpoints somehow failed to catch a problem, allowing error coins to escape into circulation where they mixed with millions of normal strikes and disappeared into the economy. Now let me explain what you need to look for when examining any 1993 P. Roosevelt dimes you encounter. First, check for doubling. Hold the coin under bright light and look carefully at the date, the mint mark, Roosevelt's profile, and all lettering on both obverse and reverse, because if you see any design elements that appear twice with slight separation, you might have a double die error worth serious money. Next, examine the strike quality. Look at whether the design is fully centered or if it's shifted showing blank planchet on one side. Check if the entire design is present or if part of it is missing due to an off-center strike. Verify that the strength of the strike is uniform or if some areas are weak suggesting a grease-filled die or other production problem, and compare the overall appearance to normal 1993 P dimes because errors usually look obviously different once you know what normal should look like. The market for 1993 P Roosevelt dime errors has been incredibly strong, with prices rising consistently over the past decade as more collectors recognize the significance of modern errors and compete for the finest examples available, and unlike some areas of numismatics where values fluctuate wildly, major modern errors have shown remarkable price stability and growth because the rarity is fixed. No more will ever be made, and demand continues to increase as the hobby grows. I absolutely love the human interest stories behind these discoveries, because they remind us that treasure hunting isn't just about ancient shipwrecks or metal detecting in fields. Sometimes the greatest treasures are hiding in the most mundane places, in spare change, in grandma's coin jar, in the bottom of a desk drawer, and all it takes to transform 10 cents into millions is the knowledge to recognize what you're looking at and the wisdom to get it authenticated instead of spending it. Another remarkable discovery happened to a bank teller in Florida who was rolling coins at work. She had handled literally millions of coins during her career and normally didn't pay much attention to individual pieces, but one 1993 dime stopped her cold because it had a massive die crack running completely across Roosevelt's face. She knew enough about coins to recognize this wasn't normal, so she bought the dime from the bank at face value, had it authenticated, and discovered that her routine day at work had produced a find worth more than several years of her salary. The psychological impact of these discoveries is fascinating to me, because suddenly the person who found the coin starts looking at all their change differently. They become obsessed with examining every coin, they start checking dates and mint marks, they learn about errors and varieties, and often they become serious collectors who develop a genuine passion for numismatics that enriches their life far beyond just the monetary value of what they found. When we talk about grades and their impact on value, understand that the difference between MS 65 and MS 67 on the same error can be millions of dollars, because at the highest grade levels, every tiny mark matters, every spot of toning affects eye appeal, and coins that achieve gem grades with major errors are so rare that they become virtually priceless to collectors who have been searching for that exact combination of error type and condition. The 1993 Roosevelt Dime error also teaches us about the importance of preservation. If you discover what you believe is a valuable error, your first instinct might be to clean it or polish it to make it look better, but stop, never clean a coin, because cleaning destroys value and can turn a valuable error into a damaged coin worth a fraction of what it would have brought in original condition. Instead, handle it only by the edges, store it in a proper holder, and get it to professionals who can evaluate it without causing damage. As we reach the end of our journey through these three incredible Roosevelt dimes, I want you to understand that everything we've discussed is based on real auction records, documented sales, and verifiable information from respected sources in the numismatic community. These aren't inflated claims or internet hype, these are genuine market values achieved when serious collectors compete for rare error coins. The final lesson from the 1993 Roosevelt dime story is that opportunity exists everywhere if you have the knowledge to recognize it. Right now, today, there are valuable error coins in circulation, there are discoveries waiting to happen, and there are people who will change their financial situation simply because they took the time to learn what to look for instead of blindly spending every coin that passed through their hands. So here's what I want you to do after watching this video. First, subscribe to the Coin Merchant if you haven't already, because we're constantly bringing you information about valuable coins that might be hiding in plain sight. Second, go through your change, check your coin jars, look through any old collections you have access to, and actually examine the coins instead of just assuming they're all face value. Third, if you find anything that looks unusual or different, don't spend it. Research it, post pictures in coin collecting forums, take it to a reputable dealer, or send it for professional authentication, because you might be holding something worth far more than you ever imagined. Fourth, share this video with friends and family because someone you know might have one of these coins and not realize its value. And finally, remember that coin collecting isn't just about money, it's about history. It's about the thrill of discovery, it's about learning and growing your knowledge, and it's about being part of a community of people who share your passion for these tiny pieces of metal that tell the story of our nation and sometimes, just sometimes, create life-changing wealth. For those observant and educated enough to recognize their treasure, hit that like button, drop a comment telling us if you're going to check your dimes after watching this, and stay tuned because we're always bringing you more incredible coins that prove the next fortune might be hiding in your pocket right now. And remember, knowledge is the key that unlocks treasure, so keep learning, keep looking, and keep believing that today might be the day you find something that changes everything. Thank you for watching The Coin Merchant, and I'll see you in the next video where we uncover more hidden treasures that prove the American dream is alive and well for those who know where to look.